The defending national champion Michigan Wolverines had one of the best defenses in all of college football last season. With multiple starters heading to the NFL, however, even some of the coaching staff, this is a defense that is going to look a little bit different than it did last year. But this is still a unit that has so much talent on the defensive front and some players I'm really excited to watch, and that includes starting defensive tackle Mason Graham. Graham is one of the best defensive tackle prospects I have ever seen, and he is a player who absolutely took over in the national championship game and had an incredibly productive season. How high should he ultimately be selected in the 2025 NFL Draft? That is what we will be going over in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon, where for $5 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to my draft guide and big board, player interviews, and so much more. If you guys want to get ahead on NFL Draft content, I highly recommend checking out the page. Leave a like and comment which players you guys want to see me talk about in a future video, and without further ado, let's take a closer look at Mason Graham. Mason Graham was an absolute monster for the Michigan defense last year. A player who started in every game for the Wolverines, he showed dominance as one of the best interior players in all of college football. He finished the season with 29 pressures, 4 sacks, 18 hurries, and 7 hits. He also had a very solid season as a run defender, posting 28 run stops on the season for the Wolverines. He was everywhere for the Wolverines defense and was a huge part of why Michael Penix Jr. struggled the way he did in the national championship game. In that game alone, Graham posted 5 pressures, and he has some elite upside on the interior of the defensive line. Graham is incredibly explosive off the line of scrimmage. His first step is so powerful, and he generates so much of that power in his lower body. He shows exceptional athleticism and has incredible understanding of the position. He shows discipline as a run defender and when to stay in his gap, but he also has the explosiveness and quick twitchiness in his game to be a very solid pass rusher as well. The explosiveness off the line really shows in his bull rush, however. Graham had incredible power, and he was able to consistently get into the backfield because he generates from his lower body, and he could just overpower offensive linemen. He has a really impressive bull rush that I think is the best in the class, and I think that's going to remain true in 2024. Graham wins with more than just his bull rush though, which is something I really appreciated about him. He showed the ability to convert speed to power, but on top of that, he had some pass rush moves. He showed a swim move, and he had phenomenal hand usage. He knew how to leverage his hands and catch an offensive lineman off balance, and then he would explode into the backfield. His hand usage is some of the best I have seen for an interior defensive lineman, and he just knows how to leverage himself. The last area I was incredibly impressed with in Graham's game was his ability to shed blocks. Whether it was a double team or it was a one-on-one situation, it felt like Graham was going to win the rep every single time. He had the hands to win in one-on-one as we mentioned, but he was able to split double teams incredibly well, and if he got into the backfield, he was going to sack the quarterback or at least make life more difficult on him. On top of that, he's just stronger than the offensive lineman. He's got incredible power and upper body strength, and he's got a really nice tool belt. The area of weaknesses in Graham's game isn't very large, but there were a few areas I have noticed that I think could play a role in his draft projection as a whole. His size is pretty great. He's 6'3", 318 pounds, and he fills the ideal frame for a starting defensive tackle at the NFL level at the 3-tech spot. However, his length is what I am a little bit concerned about. He had smaller arms for the position it appeared, and while we don't have the official numbers yet, I wouldn't be surprised if they're a little smaller than we initially thought. This shows up in his tackling at times, and I was pretty surprised to see he had a 15.6% missed tackle rate, which is just a bit too high to my liking. The other area that is a slight concern for me is that he didn't have the strongest lower body when rushing the passer, and at times, when met with a more powerful block, Graham was pushed back a little bit easier than you would have thought. He had great balance to stay on his feet, and he usually was able to get back into the play, power through the rep, and make a play in the backfield. But it was an area of his game that I did notice and I think could potentially be problematic in the NFL if he doesn't improve that play strength. Mason Graham is one of my favorite prospects in the entire class. I had so much fun watching his tape, seeing his athleticism and IQ on full display, and he was absolutely incredible for Michigan last year, and he is my number 1 defensive tackle in the draft class. It's a super loaded class on the interior, but I think that his ability in the run game takes him over the edge. He's one of the best athletes in the class, and it's rare that a player has the elite block shedding and hands on top of all the athleticism that he provides. I think he's a day 1 starter in the NFL, and he's a top 5 player in the class for me. I think Graham profiles best as a 3 tech in the NFL. He took a majority of his snaps in the B gap at Michigan, and I really don't see any reason why he won't thrive in the same position at the NFL. He has the athleticism. He has the strength to take on double teams, whether that's over the guard and center or over the guard and tackle. It's where he has dominated at the collegiate level in the Big Ten, and it's where I think he will continue to dominate at the pro level as well, and that's where I think he's going to end up playing primarily in the league. My player comparison for Mason Graham is Jalen Carter. Carter was one of my favorite prospects I have ever studied in my short time of doing this. A player with insane athletic tools, the ability to shed double teams, and just pure domination at the collegiate level. Both of them also have very similar size, and while Carter might have more length, I truly view Mason Graham on the same tier as prospect as I did with Jalen Carter, so that's the comparison I'm going to go with. Mason Graham is a Jalen Carter level prospect. He has all the tools that you look for at the position, he has the movement skills, and he has the production. I am a massive fan, and I ultimately believe that Mason Graham will be a top 10 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.